Wait,
Everyone.
yeah, there we go.
Welcome, everyone. Hi, I'm Jana, and I'm an Empathy Circle facilitator and trainer, and have been practicing Empathy Circles for the past 3.5 years. And I've been combining the Empathy Circle practice with a practice of secular universal human values called the 16 Guidelines. And I'll be the co-host for the first part of this Empathy Summit. And so we'll get started. First, I'll share that we're recording the summit for educational and promotional purposes, and the video recording will be posted to social media. And the feedback form is also in the chat. So please submit a feedback form so that we have your email and can stay in touch. And please feel free to write your comments. And let's see here, try to kind of keep everyone too. Um, On behalf of the Empathy Center, I'd like to welcome you to this Empathy Summit on the topic of empathy circles, the foundational empathy movement practice. The Empathy Center's mission is to build the empathy movement and to raise the level of mutual empathy in the world through education and community initiatives. And the Empathy Center and the Empathy Circle community would also like to extend our deepest gratitude to all our generous past sponsors and partners. And you can see more about us at the link in the chat. We invite your organization to be a partner and sponsor. And you can see a list of our partners on our website. And we'd also like to thank our generous and terrific volunteers who give freely of their time and to make these summits possible as free events. Um, our next big event will be with Virtual School Australia, partnering with Virtual School Australia, that has invited us to co-host their annual Global Empathy Conference. This will be the 7th Global Empathy Conference that Virtual School Australia hosts, and it will take place online on Saturday, May 24th. And you can register for the 7th Global Empathy Conference at the link posted in the chat. So please help support and spread empathy worldwide. So in these precious empathy summits, Empathy Circle practitioners, facilitators, trainees, trainers, empathy experts, authors share their experience and knowledge of empathy as a pathway to cultivating an appreciation for and an unmistaken understanding and awareness of our common humanity through our direct experience. Since November of last year, we've been dedicating a year of empathy summits to exploring the Empathy Circle practice as the foundational practice of the empathy movement. For many of us, this wonderful, simple, yet profound practice has transformed our communication and improved the quality of our relationships at home, in the workplace, and in our ordinary interactions everywhere we go. After this year's in-depth exploration of the Empathy Circle, we plan to host empathy summits devoted to deepening, broadening, and promoting the empathy movement, with the Empathy Circle as its core practice. So we have much to look forward to. You're invited to join our Empathy Circle community in the empathy movement and to take an active part in transforming ourselves and our world, one micro moment of kindness and good attention at a time. Thank you for joining us today at this summit and for working to help create a more peaceful, kinder, and more empathic world. So we'll co-create this meaningful empathy summit together, and when it's over, please share it widely. Thank you so very much. So it's now my pleasure to introduce the founding director of the Empathy Center, Edwin Rutch. Edwin is also the developer and long-term evangelist of the Empathy Circle practice. So now you can
Take it
proselytize.
away. Great. Well, thank you, Jana. And again, thank you to all the volunteers who have helped organize these summits. Let me do a screen share here of my slideshow. And there we go. Yeah. And oh, I'm recording, so I'm going to get rid of this, set things up. So welcome. Yeah, so welcome to the Empathy Summit. This is the Exploring Empathy Circles foundational practice of the empathy movement. And as Jana mentioned, we're building the empathy movement, which is with the vision of to make mutual empathy a primary personal and cultural value. And it's something that I really feel that we need at this time in our social political times because of all the kind of confusion and so forth that's happening in the world. And that's what I want to go into. This presentation is going to be about defining empathy in the context of the empathy circle. And if we want to build a movement to make mutual empathy a primary cultural value, we need to be clear on what our definitions are. And that's what I'm going to be, personally focusing on this year. We're holding empathy circle study groups. We have two that we hold every week. We'll be creating more presentations like this, wanting to write articles and also create a workshop about the definition of empathy and looking at even writing a book. And this is sort of the beginning of that project. And let's go. We know from the benefits of empathy there's many benefits. We have stronger relationships and connections, better conflict resolution, improved teamwork and collaboration. It's good for effective leadership and increased personal and social well-being, and just general greater social cohesion. And I came about 15 years ago, I came across the value of empathy and have just been dedicating my life to this topic just because I just saw how important it was, for just all the other values that mutual empathy builds, like trust and deep understanding and connection and all these other values that flow from when we listen deeply to each other. So I'm really excited, about this movement that we're building, and hopefully we can turn it into really have an effect on the political, social culture of the United States and the world, for that matter. But yes, there is a but. Um, there's been many recent criticisms of empathy. There's a book called Against Empathy, The Case for Rational Compassion, that came out, a couple of years ago, but there's several books that have come out just recently within the last year. And there's one called Suicidal Empathy, which I'm not sure if it's released yet, but the author is working on it and has been on a lot of these podcasts, Joe Rogan, etc., he's been just criticizing empathy. And there's another one called Toxic Empathy that's come out, and the subtitle is How Progressives Exploit Christian Compassion. And they've gotten, a lot of publicity. There's some NPR pieces on it, and two of them, in fact. And so they're getting a lot of publicity. The toxic empathy one, I know the person who wrote that, she's very prominent in the right wing political circles and has been really getting her message out. And then uh, the next one is there was just a recent uh, podcast or on Joe Rogan where Elon Musk, the wealthiest person in the world and the head of the Doge and project in reducing the size of government, he said the fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy. So that's like another criticism. And there's even more. There's the dark side of empathy by Fritz Breithaupt. He's an academic, and he says empathy can fuel revenge. When people deeply empathize with victims, they may become more aggressive towards those they perceive as perpetrators. So that's one of his criticisms. And then another one is the sin of empathy. So Joe Rigney says empathy demands that we enter into someone's emotional world so fully that we adopt their perspective uncritically, which can lead us away from the truth. So uh, so most of these criticisms are coming from the political right. So you can is Joe Wrigley is sort of a right wing kind of Christian, evangelical Christian. And then we have also, even in the Senate or in Congress, there's been talk about empathy. So this is a little video clip from Jeff Sessions, who back when Obama was president was uh, the judiciary head of the Judiciary Committee in the Senate. And when Barack Obama said that he was going to choose a Supreme Court justice that had empathy as one of their qualities, it really, upset a lot of people in Congress. And there was quite a discussion, about empathy, kind of back and forth in Congress. And it was really, to me, it was very unclear, what they were actually talking about. It was a real muddlement in terms of the definition. So let's just hear what Jeff Sessions has to say. Oh, and I think I did not turn on the audio, so I'm going to turn that on. And there we go. So hopefully you can hear this.
And anyway, what is empathy? What is empathy? Is this your personal feeling that had a tough childhood, or something, prejudice that you have? You're Protestant or Catholic, your ethnicity, your race, some biases you brought with you to life and to the court? Is that what an empathy is?
So yeah, so Jeff Sessions is asking, what is an empathy? And I think that just shows that people do not really understand what empathy is. The current definitions I find are problematic. There's a lack of consensus, especially within the academic community. It's kind of all over the place in terms of what people are calling empathy, and sometimes they're contradictory, or one person says it's compassion, the other person says it's empathy, or so it's just all kinds of different definitions. And I would say that the definitions are obviously not clear to many people, because you can just see all the criticisms. And even Jeff Sessions, in the Senate, is saying, what is empathy? And the current definitions, I find, can be abstract and rather academic, and they're not easy to understand. So, uh, for example, the term affective empathy and cognitive empathy have become popular, within the academic community, and then people have kind of taken that on. You'll see in the literature, articles, books and so forth, that this term is used a lot. And even these terms are rather confusing themselves. And so I feel that we need a really clear and practical definition, something that is very usable and practical. It's just not some abstract, sort of detached, um, sort of a definition. And I think the way to do that is to define empathy in the context of the empathy circle. So most people here know how the empathy circle works. It's a practical process that anyone can do fairly easily. And so what I want to do is define empathy within the context of the empathy circle. What is happening in the empathy circle, and where do we see empathy playing out? So This, I hope, will take the definition out of the abstract and make it more concrete. Something that you can actually experience viscerally. Have the felt experience of what people are talking about, and also that we can map other definitions on. So all these criticisms that we see out there about empathy, we can map those onto the experience of the empathy circle and see if they actually fit within the scope of what we call empathy. So I think this is really going to be a real contribution to creating some greater clarity about the nature of empathy. And with that, we can use that to help build the empathy movement with a sense of clarity. So, what the model that what I'm calling empathy is I calling it holistic empathy, and instead of like affective cognitive empathy, I'm using the term holistic empathy. And the definition, the model has these four facets or four components. That there's basic empathy, and there's self-empathy, and imaginative empathy, and holistic empathy. And I'm going to go through these and just show how each of them, plays out in the empathy circle. So let's go into an empathy circle. We know the basic practice. There's a speaker, there's an active listener, and then there's the silent listeners who are observing. The speaker is sharing their whatever's on their mind, or talking about the topic, and the active listener is being present with the speaker. They're sensing into, they're feeling into the experience of the speaker, and using active listening or empathic listening to reflect back their understanding, which helps, that the active listener stay present. It makes sure that they're really hearing and understanding the speaker and going deeper into the speaker's experience. So that is what a lot of people just call that empathy. And I'm saying that that's sort of like basic, the foundational empathy. And this is, this definition is based on the work of Carl Rogers, and that is what Carl Rogers would call empathy. That the listener is sensing into the experience of the speaker, and then so what does that look like? Carl Rogers says empathy is the listener's effort to hear the other person deeply, accurately, and non-judgmentally. Empathy involves skillful, reflective listening that clarifies and amplifies the person's own experiencing and meaning without imposing the listener's own material. So, that's one of his definitions of empathy, and that again is that the active listener just listening to the speaker in the empathy circle. So, if somebody asks you what is empathy, you can say, "Oh, the basic of empathy. Let me show you in an empathy circle what empathy is." So you can point to it directly in the empathy circle, and then an empathic way of yeah.
Can you move your Zoom thing down?
Do you know how to move that?
Move your cursor.
Um,
No. All right.
Not sure how to get rid of it.
Okay, don't worry about it.
Oh, there it is. I got it. Oh, thanks yeah, I see that. And then he also, another description of that process is being listened to. Uh, uh, let's see, I think I went too far. Let's see that. Okay. One. Oh, there we go. I think that's what I was wanting for the slide. An empathic way, here's Rogers also says, an empathic way of being with another person has several facets. It means entering the private perceptual world of the other and becoming thoroughly at home in it. It involves being sensitive moment to moment to the changing felt meanings which flow in this other person, to the fear or rage or tenderness or confusion or whatever he or she is experiencing. So again, he's describing that basic empathy, and you can use all these as reference if you're trying to explain to someone what empathy means, kind of the basic aspect. Another aspect of empathy is self-empathy, which is feeling, sensing into your own experience, and it's having that sensing into feeling a sense of connection, of acceptance, understanding that you apply inwards. And Rogers also addresses that experience of self-empathy. He doesn't call it self-empathy, but he says being listened to by someone who understands makes it possible for a person to listen more accurately to themselves with greater empathy towards their own visceral experiencing, their own vaguely felt meanings. So going back to self-empathy, by the active listener listening to the speaker, they are supporting the speaker in self-empathy. So again, you can reference that in the empathy circle. And the next part is what I call imaginative empathy. And you see a lot of times when people talk about cognitive empathy, they say, well, that's imagining someone, what they would feel and think like. And that is like a different experience than being directly with someone and listening and feeling, your way into that. That's sort of a role playing aspect. And with that, we have imaginative empathy. And that's, I think, what Meryl Streep mentions. She says, I've thought a lot about the power of empathy in my work, and it's the current that connects me and my actual pulse to a fictional character in a made up story. It allows me to feel and pretend feelings. And that's like an actor, you can take on a role, and the like in this is Meryl Streep, taking on the role of Margaret Thatcher and Julia Child. And you could do an empathy circle, right, with taking on roles. Like this is all four roles that Meryl Streep has done. And those roles, you could take on those roles, and those roles could be in an empathy circle listening to each other. So it adds the layer of imagination, and I think this is something that's not really talked about. It's kind of muddled in this term cognitive empathy, which I think is just not very descriptive. So again, you can take on any role, you can take on the role of an animal, and say, what is it like to be this animal? And then, speak from that. And then your active listener would say, oh, I hear you're feeling, really hungry and you really like to eat, whatever. So you could, have that. And you can imagine anything. You can imagine yourself being fruit for that matter. So that's sort of the, touching on this notion of imaginative empathy, which is, a very open, creative sort of way of sensing into and understanding the world. Like basic empathy is sort of a way of knowing, and this is kind of a direct way of knowing, and imaginative empathy is more of an imaginative way of knowing the world. And then the other part is what I call holistic empathy. And this is usually empathy is seen, from an individualistic point of view. It's just the speaker, is empathizing. But there's a quality of empathy, which is when everybody has self-empathy and we're all listening to each other, it creates sort of a little culture of empathy, a holistic quality of empathy where we're all mutually in a mutual relationship, and there's a general quality, overall quality of that empathy, a way of empathic way of being. And that's sort of the culture, that holistic empathy is really what I see. So basic empathy is sensing into another's experience. Self-empathy is sensing into our own visceral experiences. Imaginative empathy is sort of an imagining an experience. Uh, and the holistic empathy is sensing into the sort of the community's experience and mutual empathy between all sort of parties. And with that, I got 1 minute. Next step, I would just remind everyone to some next steps. You can ground the definitions you hear in the empathy circle, ground the criticisms of empathy in the empathy circle. We'll be addressing a lot of those criticisms, to map them onto the empathy circle. And most of those criticisms I don't get too worried about because they're not even talking about what I would call empathy. And, in the empathy circle, where do you see this playing out? And yeah, you can contact me if you're interested in being part of the study group that's working on this. You can contact me, and you can if you're we have a really great group that's working on this. So that's it. Thank you so much, and back to you, Jana.
Thank you. Thank you, Edwin. And now I have the joy of introducing Rosa Zubizarreta Ada. Rosa Zubizarreta has a background as a practitioner in organization development and expertise in empathy-based collaborative sense-making practices. Rosa's research focuses on the facilitation of democratic innovations. So thank you, Rosa. I look forward to hearing you.
Thank you so much for your introduction, Jana. Thank you so much, Edwin, for having created all of this of the Empathy Circle and Empathy Circle trainings and Empathy Circle summits, etc. And thank you to all the folks who are working hard to make this happen. I know you've got quite a team with you, Edwin. So yeah, I want to begin by appreciating your talk, Edwin. I feels to me like when people are saying a lot of stuff about being against empathy, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to clarify. It's an opportunity for us to, say, hey, people are talking about empathy. Here's what we have to offer. So when Elon Musk made that statement about it being the fundamental weakness of Western society, I'm like, oh, I hope that Edwin heard this because I really do see it as an opportunity. So, okay. I want to start by saying what I value most about empathy circles. And this may be a familiar thing for most of you if you have experience with it, et cetera. But it's just, I think we also all have our own take on what particularly moves us. So I don't have a very good memory, and I don't recall anymore when I first met Edwin online or attended my first empathy circle. But I do remember one of the first things that Edwin said that resonated very deeply for me. And it was when he described empathy circles as a gateway practice that helped to lay the groundwork for other more complex practices, such as human-centered design or nonviolent communication or focusing or others. And there were several reasons I was touched by this. One is I think we need to create a movement of movements. And my first practice was focusing. And Eugene Genlin, who is no longer with us, who is the founder of Focusing and was a student of Carl Rogers, he would always say to his students, don't just learn focusing, learn a handful of practices because we're all neighbors. And he saw it as we're all neighbors in the new kind of communities that we need to be building in the world for transformation. So, but the second reason I was so touched by Edwin's acknowledgement of the connection between these different practices is that I realized that this can also work in the other direction. It's not just that empathy circles are a gateway practice to others, but I practice and teach an advanced form of group facilitation that is deeply grounded in active listening. And so I realized that now I had a great place where I could send facilitators to go and develop this very basic and necessary foundational skill. So now when I teach facilitation, I usually recommend that practitioners engage in empathy circle practice to deepen their skill in active listening. So let me delve into this for a moment, because the reason I'm saying this is that even though most therapists, mediators, facilitators know about active listening, I want to make a very important distinction here. Knowing about active listening is very different, I find, than having it deep in our muscle memory, than having it be a habit that we've created and built and strengthened. That means that it's something that we can fall back on, especially when we need it the most, right? So I really see it as a practice that we need to continually be developing and staying in shape with. So of course, there are other contexts where active listening is practiced, but empathy circles are one of the simplest, basics, most easily available learning opportunities for people to develop this basic skill. And so then, at some point, if someone wants to become a highly skilled mediator or facilitator, they may want to add other related listening-based practices to their repertoire: compassionate listening, nonviolent communication, focusing. But empathy circles are a great place to start. And before coming across empathy circles, I remember some of the challenges I had in attempting to teach active listening in my facilitation trainings. For one thing, it can be surprisingly difficult to persuade people to set aside their desire to coach, to come up with a good question to ask someone who is exploring a challenging area in their life. And instead, what Carl Rogers taught is that if we are able to simply be present, to be with someone, to offer a reflection that helps them feel heard and seen in their current challenges, they themselves will be able to find their own next steps forward. In fact, before coming across empathy circles, when I first trained as a focusing teacher, this is not how everybody trains, because each trainer has their own way of teaching. But the person that I studied with, for the whole first year that we were learning focusing, he asked us to not say anything back to our focusing partners, not even a reflection back of what they had said, but to simply listen attentively and compassionately in order to break the habit of having to say something. And also as a way to experience how much people are able to shift on their own when receiving loving, caring presence from another person, even without any words being exchanged. So it was pretty radical. But back to empathy circles, we don't have to be silent. Instead, we are invited to simply reflect back what we have heard with the intention of helping the other person feel heard. And it's fine to say back some of their own words. It's no complicated instructions, just helping them feel heard. And we only have to do this during usually a 5-minute period where we are listening and reflecting back before we switch roles. And then we get to experience being on the other side of it. If we were the active listeners, now we have a turn to speak and to be listened to by another person in this very special way, where they are letting us know what they have heard, just that. And the person who is speaking gets a chance to be a witness now, observing others, engaging in this deeply simple yet hugely powerful speaking and listening practice. So of course I fell in love with empathy circles, even though I had already experienced several of these other more advanced practices. There can be a real gift to simplicity. So one of my favorite ways to introduce empathy circles to others has been as part of something I call OMA evenings. OMA is short for Opening Minds and Hearts. These are introductory sessions where in the course of 2.5 hours, participants get to experience both a taste of empathy circles, something they can easily take home with them, as well as a taste of what it feels like to be part of a larger group conversation on a challenging topic, a conversation that is facilitated with dynamic facilitation, where the facilitator is doing a great deal of active listening. So there is a manual for dynamic facilitation that is freely available online. I will find the URL for it and post it in the chat in a little bit. And people are welcome to use the manual to explore on their own any practice they might have of doing facilitation work with larger groups. But that practice is a bit more challenging, and most people are not going to learn it in one evening. So that's why I'm so happy when I can offer this compact taster evening where participants have the opportunity to experience both of these practices, dynamic facilitation and empathy circles. We start out by introducing empathy circle in the large group, and then people get to practice empathy circles in small groups. And then when we come back together in a large group, we debrief their experience in the empathy circles. And that flows very smoothly right into dynamic facilitation, because in empathy circles, people have been practicing reflecting back, being reflected, and witnessing reflection. And now they get to be participants in a large group conversation where the facilitator is working hard to give empathic reflections back to each person's contribution. So anyway, as I mentioned earlier, when I'm teaching dynamic facilitation, I usually recommend empathy circles as a place where facilitators can strengthen their foundational skills in active listening. And that's almost it for what I want to say. I do want to mention that in Austria, dynamic facilitation is used to facilitate civic councils, which are sortition-based democratic innovations, somewhat similar to a citizens' assembly, yet much smaller. And this format has a great track record as a way of helping groups explore super challenging issues in a constructive way. It's a bit similar to Braver Angels format of Braver Debates. Has anyone here heard of Braver Angels? Is that something people have heard about? Awesome. In both Braver Angels and dynamic facilitation, participants direct their comments to the facilitator or the moderator instead of to each other. But the last I knew, Braver Debates moderators are not working with active listening to reflect back what each participant is sharing. And in contrast, that's a foundational part of dynamic facilitation. So as I mentioned, there's a dynamic facilitation manual freely available. There's also several articles on my website, www.diapraxis.net. I will put that in the chat in a minute, along with a dissertation I wrote on the facilitation of the civic councils in Austria. And there's also a page on my website under the resources section called Empathy Circles in Action. And that page includes a link to a Google Doc with more info about the OMA format. And you're also welcome to email me if you'd like to explore more about any of this. In closing, I just want to say about the value of empathy that especially in these really challenging times when the world can feel really shaky sometimes and there's a lot of unknown and fear close to the surface, empathy can really be a lifeline because it lets us stay connected to one another, even when it seems like things are falling apart. And when we feel connected, we can co-regulate, we can breathe together. Our nervous systems, which are wired for connection and interdependence, remember that we are not alone. And this kind of togetherness is what can help us move through stress, grief, even collapse with a little more steadiness and a little more breath. So thank you all for being empathy fans and for helping spread empathy in the world.
Thank you, Rosa. Thank you for your beautiful presentation. Thank you for sharing all the cross-pollination of the different kinds of empathy and how we can reflect each other and listen to each other. And I really loved how you started off by first reflecting Edwin. And thank you so much for modeling it for us. So I'd like to welcome Kathleen Oregon. And Kathleen's work is focused on helping communities, organizations, and individuals become empowered to fulfill their greatest potential through dialogue, negotiation, and collaboration. And her topic is the impact of empathy and empathy circles in conflict. So I look forward to hearing you, Kathleen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jana, and thank you, Edwin, for all of the beautiful work that you are doing in the world through the empathy circles and these summits. I have found in my 25 years as a peacemaker that one of the root causes of conflict in every context is the absence of empathy. Absence of empathy can cause conflict or can be born out of conflict and can be born out of conflict. When in conflict, people are often unable or unwilling to empathize with the experiences and the emotions of the people they see as their opponent or maybe even as their enemy. They see no common ground in which they can relate to the other differences, whether they be different politics, different religions, cultures, different appearances, difference in perspectives about something that has happened, should have happened, or should not have happened, or any other significant difference can lead us to close ourselves off to the other person and to objectify them. And when we objectify another person, when we lose sight of their humanity, we are less inclined to want to hear their perspective, understand their experience, or feel their pain. Yet each and every human being wants to be deeply heard. We want to be understood. We want to have others relate to our experience and our feelings. And in my 25 years of experience as a peacemaker, I have seen time and time again that one of the most powerful tools for resolving conflict and healing relationships is empathy. The empathy that is evoked in empathy circles restores our recognition of our shared humanity and inspires a sense of common ground that helps us to find our way to negotiating win-win agreements. And win-win agreements are what lead to lasting peace. And uh, this is because in the empathy circles, a sacred space is created for each person to feel safe in sharing their thoughts, their experiences, their beliefs, and for the others in the circle to feel safe hearing them. The empathy that is created in this sacred space of sharing and deep listening evokes our recognition of our common ground, which gives us a foundation for what we call needs-based negotiation that results in the win-win agreements I mentioned a moment ago. So to give you an example of, of one experience that I've had in witnessing the power of empathy circles, and it wasn't in a mediation that I've done, although I'll tell you about that in a moment. But I was at the Empathy Center once for a one of their facilitation trainings, and at the end of the training, when we were doing cleanup and all of that, one of the team members was out getting ready to clean off the barbecue that we had used, and decided that one of the quickest ways to get started on that was to light the barbecue and just let it sort of burn off all the grease and residue that was on the grill. And so got that started and then got distracted and left the area briefly. And in that time, the fire got kind of bigger, and we were in it was on a wood deck, right? And so the fire is getting a little bit bigger here. And Edwin came out and saw the fire, didn't know what was going on or why it was burning or anything like that, because the person who had left the fire burning wasn't there to explain it. And so, of course, there was panic because Edwin saw, this is a wood deck. There's this fire going and it's getting kind of big. And we're in the mountains of California and we know about fires in California. And so, of course, there was high upset got triggered by that, and fear and all of the strong emotions that go with a dangerous situation like that, one that could really literally explode. And uh, and so, of course, he, put out the fire, and the individual who had left the fire, came in, and you could feel the tension in the air. It was palpable. You could cut it with a knife. There was high emotion on both sides. And immediately, Zach, who was the other person who had left the fire, said, "We need to have an empathy circle." And I was so impressed because so often, especially, forgive me, gentlemen, but often men take a warrior approach to that high degree of upset, right? And they do that battle thing, uh, and and instead, I saw these two men immediately in the presence of all that high emotion recognize, this is a moment. They were mindful. They said, this is a moment for an empathy circle. And they sat down, and they had it. As a mediator, I honor confidentiality. They had their conversation between them. I was not mediating it. I wasn't asked to mediate it. So therefore, I felt that that was a confidential conversation. So I did not listen in. I did not. So I don't know the depth of the dialogue that happened, but what I did see was them go into the circle with this high level of emotion, and them come out of the circle with deep understanding and negotiated agreements about how this would be prevented in the future. And so through the empathy circle process, they co-created a better tomorrow. They prevented future disasters from happening. They resolved their upset. They came to a deeper, uh, more profound relationship through that experience, in my observation. And I was able to witness them walking their talk. And this was a fairly new relationship to me, and so I wanted to see whether these people that I was beginning to be associated with and learning from, whether they would actually walk their talk, and they did. And it was astounding. And so that's one example of where I've seen the power of the empathy circle. Since I have learned the empathy circle process, I have brought it into my mediations. Although, in all honesty, I don't say, okay, everyone, we're going to have an empathy circle now, because sometimes it just doesn't feel right for the moment to label it an empathy circle. What I do say is, I'm going to invite you all into an opportunity. And I loved what Rosa had said earlier about reframing the opposition to empathy as an opportunity, right? That's so important. I say to people in mediation, I'd like to give you all an opportunity to deeply hear one another in ways that perhaps you haven't before. And I'm going to invite you all to create a safe space with me for each of us to be able to safely share our thoughts, and to be safe and to feel safe in hearing the other person's thoughts. And as you do so, I encourage you to not just hear them deeply, but to listen, to learn and understand. And then from that process, we will look to see whether or not we can negotiate some agreements that will help you all co-create a better tomorrow together. And time again, when they have taken the time to do this with me, and they're willing to do this with me, that we find that they have new, deeper understandings of one another and of themselves, and how they are showing up in the other person's experience. And the consequence of that was that conflicts were resolved, relationships were healed. I've seen families who were in deep conflict for generations actually find a new way to be with one another and see each other not as objects, because we so often objectify each other when we are in conflict, but to see one another's humanity. And I noticed earlier when Rosa was speaking that Tara put a comment in the chat about how she uses empathy circles in her leadership trainings and the value of leadership development. And that spoke to my heart because I have so often thought, imagine, ladies and gentlemen, what the world would be like if our world leaders developed empathy toward one another's countries and cultures and beliefs, and had empathy circles with one another when they are having their interactions with each other, especially in times of world conflict. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, the millions of people who would still be alive today because of the wars that would never have happened if only our world leaders would develop empathy through the practice of empathy circles. So there are so many profound applications from the microcosmic level to the macrocosmic level, from the individual level to the multinational level, of developing empathy through the practice of empathy circles. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Wow, that sounds so promising. Opportunity. Thank you. Empathy is opportunity. Uh, I'd like to welcome Hillary to be our next speaker. Hillary Zarate. And Hillary is her training is an empathy circle as an empathy circle facilitator in 2024, along with certification in California as a state mediator. And her work has had an impact in the global empathy movement. And she's also going to be talking about conflict resolution using empathy circles in conflict resolution and mediation. Thank you, Hillary. Look forward to hearing you.
Everybody, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you to Edwin, of course, for having this Empathy Summit. This is the third one I've been able to attend, and to the co-hosts and speakers who made this possible also. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Hillary Zarate, and I am the owner and creator of Zarate Mediation Services. And I'm also an educator at a local community college. I'm also grateful for God's gift of a firm foundation of faith. I am a single mom of an adult son. I'm an author on Substack, and I've been professionally doing conflict mediation since 2017. And in 2023, I did receive my state certification for conflict resolution and mediation. And then I was able to be certified as an empathy circle facilitator in 2024. And so my intention for today is to tell you how using empathy circles with conflict resolution has really helped me and how it can help you in dealing with conflict. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so again, using empathy circles in conflict resolution, I believe that conflict is inevitable. It's everywhere you look, in our neighborhoods, within our homes, on the media, in your workplaces. But I really believe that resolution is a choice, and empathy is the way that helps us move forward in the most powerful way. Understanding others' perspectives really transforms conflicts into opportunities for growth and connection. And some of you might already know what conflict is, but I wanted just to go over it briefly. You know, it really arises when there's a clash between individuals and groups. And maybe there's opposing viewpoints, opposing values. Maybe it creates fiction and misunderstanding. And I believe also that conflict is not what happened, but how you respond to it, what emotions that you're feeling. So if something could happen and you might not respond to it, it's not necessarily a conflict, but really looking at how you perceive your threat, a threat to your identity or to your need. There could be a communication breakdown, and people can get defensive or take things personally. But I believe that conflict, if it's properly managed, can really become a catalyst for positive change and a growth opportunity. And so some of the advantages of conflict, who would say that there's advantages to conflict? But I really see that conflict can be the doorway to peace. And it clarifies your doubts and queries. New ideas could come out of conflict. It encourages healthy debate and argument. It leads to positive outcomes. You maybe can identify some goals that you want to work towards. And also, I think most importantly is it identifies preventative strategies for your future. It helps you have healing and not to repeat the harm that was done to have this conflict. So I really see that conflict can be an advantage if we could just change our mindset to look at it as a growth opportunity. And thanks to some of the speakers before me, we kind of went into what empathy is already, but I just wanted to speak briefly to this. Empathy is my top 3 values, is mutuality, really is the foundation, I think, of human relationships. When you have reciprocal empathy, it really can make connection. And that's one of the hardest parts of my job, is to get people to the table. So let's see here. Just making sure I'm not missing anything in the chat. Okay. And so mutuality. Yeah, that is one of the hardest things, is to get people to the table. And my second value for empathy is openness. And when you're able to be open, you can express yourself and be able to listen to others. And I love what was shared previously about having that self-empathy. To have that self-empathy, you're able then to give it to others. Empathy is not sympathy. It really is not feeling sorry for anyone else and making judgments about what someone else is going through. Let's see. So why empathy matters in conflict? It really does expand your perspective. It reduces your defensiveness, builds trust, and it reveals deeper needs. So you're able to identify what's truly important to each person. And on this next slide here, you'll see that above the water, I love this iceberg photo because I think it really captures what is going on in any kind of relationship. You can see the behaviors, you can see the facts that are happening, but underneath the water is a whole lot more iceberg, a whole lot more values, attitudes, your culture, your past traumas that might have shaped where you're coming to at this moment and in this time. So underneath the iceberg could be seen as a barrier, and also having strong emotions. Anger and fear really can override being empathetic, and being able to self-regulate your emotions is really key. Needing to be right. I think we all know some people in our lives who really prioritize winning over finding the common ground. And in that case, I would really say that they're not being open, they're not really ready to come to the table yet. And so maybe I need to do some more work as a mediator to help them see the advantages of coming to the table with an open mind. There could be biases um, and prejudices that really prevents us from truly seeing others. And one of the things that we've all seen also is poor listening or apathy. And reaching people who don't care, as you might have heard, loneliness is a huge problem in our society right now, and isolation. And one of my intentions is to get people out of that isolation, out of that apathy, and to find something that they do care about. Um, and, we really don't need to worry about the result with empathy. We need to think about our motivation, our intention. And so these are some of the barriers to empathy. Empathy circle techniques. Briefly, I'll just go over this because a lot of us are trained already in empathy circles, but we fully focus on the speaker without planning any response, and we do some active listening. And then it's time for the reflective listener to paraphrase what they've heard and confirm understanding using their own words. And again, being open, not analyzing, diagnosing, advising, not having judgments or assumptions, and really being present in what's going on. And to understand also that they will have a turn to actively listen and speak. So now I wanted to go over a couple case studies that I used in my own conflict resolution and mediation business. So I love this quote here from Bell Hooks. If you want a beloved community, we must stand for justice, have recognition for difference without attaching difference to privilege. And what does that mean to me? That means that we all have something to offer, and diversity is an asset. And these differences that we have don't have any status to them. We are all valuable. And I just love that quote from Bell Hooks because that's how I go into these empathy circles. So the situation that I wanted to share with you all happened at a day center for women and children who are experiencing homelessness. And two of the team members, were arguing over racially motivated language, and they had a long history of things that have happened. And so I was called in, and I was able um, to go in there together with them and do some empathy circles. And they each were able to share their concerns and really reflect back, the essence of what each of them heard. We were focused on making some agreements, not necessarily any resolution, but healing. Like I mentioned earlier, not repeating the harm that has been done in the past. And one of my co-mediators, Davis, who's here today, likes to say, you do not need to attend every argument you are invited to. And I think that's really important with your emotional regulation. And I think that's something that these participants learned at that case study. But one of the agreements is we developed an inclusivity statement together and an exit policy. And sometimes the resolution really is just the increased understanding. So some of the team members said to me, one of the team members said to me that this is the first time I have ever been able to really share what's happening with me, what's underneath the iceberg, right? Underneath the water. This is the first time I've ever to really feel heard. So it was, I think, a real success. The next case study I wanted to share is you've probably heard that the top two reasons for couple separation is money and intimacy. Well, I was able to help a couple with their financial decisions that they were making, and each one felt misunderstood and like they were not on the same page. And so using the empathy circles, um, they were really able to share their deeper fears and their hopes, and they're able to validate each other's feelings. And I think this one went on for over an hour. We did the empathy circles, sharing at 4 minutes each, back and forth, and the outcome was really positive in that they were able to hear each other, right? Having that understanding, and then developing a financial plan that really addressed both of their needs. So I've been able to check in with them again, and there's still conflict that comes up. Just because you do an empathy circle doesn't mean all the conflict goes away, but they are able to talk more and understand more about where someone's coming from, and then reassess their agreement if they need to. So, since I've been using empathy circles as part of conflict resolution and mediation, I have really had a 97% success rate. And I'm so pleased with um, using empathy circles as part of my business. So, as time wraps up here, I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening. You can contact me at zaratimediation.com, or my email is zaratimediationservices@gmail.com. So thank you all again, and I'll turn it back over to Jana.
Thank you, Hillary. Wow, that's amazing. 97%. Go for it. Empathy circles and conflict resolution. Wow, thank you. So our next speaker is Catherine Valentin, and Professor Dr. Catherine Valentin works at the Lutheran University of Applied Sciences in Nuremberg in Germany. And Catherine will be talking about balancing with the empathy circle. So we look forward to hearing you as well. And Catherine is our final speaker for today, and we will have a few minutes. So if you would also like to put any questions in the chat for any of the other speakers that we've heard and for Catherine, then we can spend a few minutes addressing those. If not, we'll just go straight into the empathy circle.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I will share my slides too. I'm very, very happy to be here today. I'm so thankful for the Empathy Circle. I really, really fell in love with it, and I would like to share some experiences I had with it. Please forgive me my English. I'm not a native speaker, and sometimes I miss my word, but I know you're all here with your heart, so I feel quite comfortable right now. Actually, I made a little brochure about the way I do this empathy circle. I did it for the German-speaking people, but then I translated it. So if you're interested in that, I will send you the link in the end. Now there it goes. So I made many different empathy circles meanwhile, like for 2 years, something about that. And I was not really trained in that. I'm not very sure if I really do it in the way you do it as a real trained facilitators. I will tell you what kinds of empathy circles I'm talking about right now. I'm a climate activist in a little regional group called Families for Future, and we had with citizens a climate change empathy circles. And then we had at our university about the care crisis climate empathy circles. And that's the reason why I was late. I just had a empathy circles about the book on tyranny from Timothy Snyder. That also was not my idea. I think it was somebody of you here who had the idea, and I was copying it, and we really, really have a good time doing that. And then there was the situation, that's a very practical one, and the last two I talk about in our university, the devotion, the service didn't really, it's a Protestant university, didn't work anymore. People wouldn't really come anymore. And I said, oh, there should be many different reasons why that is the way. And we had empathy circles about that. One empathy circle about that. The last one I would like to mention is an empathy circle, also a very practical one in a company. And they just wanted to find a solution how to lay out the rooms, and had like kind of empathy circle with 13 people, which was very helpful for that process. So when I give you some hints about my experiences, it's not in a scientific way, but as I'm a researcher, I would like to make some definitions. What is empathy for me? I really adore that there are different understandings of empathy. In my case, I take the effective experiencing of the presumed emotion of another living being based on the cognitive understanding of this emotion, while maintaining the self-other differentiation. I think one of the speaker before me told me that not going into the other person means empathy. You still keep being yourself, and there's the other person. And balancing can be conceived as the relative weighing assigned to an orientation. So in my understanding, empathy itself is always balancing between the feelings I presume, between situations, myself and the other persons, or what's gonna talked about. So firstly, I would like to talk about we had, it was in the empathy circle about climate change. And it happened to be that there were climate activists and people who denied that climate change is mankind made or has to do anything with our industry. And of course, people were very eager to get in contact with persons like this because normally we are in our bubble. And the empathy circle was very was done with big feelings. And it happened that in this mirroring, they didn't come up with the same idea of how climate change is happening, but they found that they're not so far away from each other if it comes up to what to do. So you really could see that the levels of thematic and content-based deliberation can shift over time in this empathy circle. And the question of what truly matters evolves through the encounter. In the beginning, some of the people were having the inner feeling of, okay, it's a good empathy circle if we come up with a fitting idea. And in the end, it was not necessary anymore. Second thought I want to tell you about is balancing power relations. I don't think that I have to tell you that we all the time we have big power relations in when we start talking to each other. Also in a empathy circle, of course, and concerning many issues. And I want to tell you about two examples. One example was with the layout of the room. Empathy circle, there were many people from this company talking together in this way for the first time. And the two people who were in charge of, in the end, to find a solution of how to design and lay out these rooms, they really get a very, very deep understanding of the wisdom of each person who is involved in this process, and to get a deeper understanding of how they can fulfill their jobs, taking into account the different people who would not be heard if they wouldn't have this empathy circle. Or very similar, when we had the empathy circle about the service, there were people talking to each other who had a very high power, like professors and priests and people like me who can talk a lot and have fast opinion. And then there was one student, and in my experience, she brought the most helpful issues for the process. She had the same time to talk as the others did, and this created a situation that the other guys had to stop talking and really get in this listening and mirroring or reflecting. And I really could see that the process was so valuable because she really got the space, this perspective needed for the whole process. So the implicit power structures really became more fluid through this empathy circle, and the equal distribution of the time gave the people a rhetorical power that they would not otherwise have in this way. Even if the people are nice and Lutheran, they wouldn't have let her spoken so much. The third issue, of course, balancing feelings and self-relationship. I think you all know it yourself. I want to talk about my experiences in this case. So in one case, it was about the crisis of care crisis. Empathy circle. There was this lady, she later told me that she really knew what to say. And she really had a good idea. Oh, yes, this is a good contribution if I say this. And then she had to listen and reflect. She had to listen and she had to listen and she had to listen. And suddenly, when it was her turn, she said something totally different than she planned to say. And she really experienced what it made with herself when she was listening so long and was released from this effect just to have to say something so fast. Or another example is we had this empathy circle about tyranny, where it is about fascism and how to strengthen our democracy. And there was one contribution by one participant, and she was showing in what way she would hope to act when it really comes to face real, oh, I'm sorry, I'm missing the word, that she cannot be a professor anymore if there would be an oppression, a repressive moment from their chiefs. And she would say, I would skip being a professor if I would come into that situation. I'm not sure. I cannot say because I don't know when in such situation I will be, but that's hopefully what I will do. And then another participant, she was saying, oh, I'm feeling so tingled. I'm feeling tingling because it really touches me so deep. And I realize, am I also already in this situation? Because I have such tensions to get along with my position in my work and what my chiefs tell me to do or not to do. And these empathy circle moments really help. This mirroring, to mirror each other helps you to make it possible to connect with your own feelings and take the next step. And by listening for longer, a new relationship to one's own views and feelings can be created. So that was my contribution. Thank you very much for every one of you for listening. Here you have the link. I can send it in the chat. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you so much for sharing your different empathy circles and for the realizations also that you had from them. Thank you. So do we have any questions? If we have no questions, then we'll just go into the empathy circle. Is that right, Edwin?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're ready to go in if you're.
So I'll pass it over to Kara, who will co-host the second part together with Ruth of the empathy circle. So go ahead. You can.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. This has been amazing already. And now we get to go practice what we've been talking about. Today, I'm going to guide us through the structured process and explain what an empathy circle is and how it works step by step. So you're going to feel comfortable jumping into it. An empathy circle is a structured dialogue process that fosters mutual understanding and connection. It is all about creating a safe space where everyone gets a chance to speak, be heard, and feel understood. We take turns sharing while others listen carefully, not to respond with opinions or advice, but to reflect what they hear. This helps us build trust and practice empathy together. So here's how it works. We're going to go around in a circle. Each person will take a turn speaking for a set amount of time, usually 3 to 5 minutes, though we can adjust that as needed. While one person speaks, another is actively listening and reflecting back what they heard. Everyone else listens quietly. The goal is to make sure the speaker feels fully heard before we move on to the next person, and it's simple and powerful. So let's talk about the roles that we'll play in this circle. There are a few key roles, and I will explain them starting with the speaker. The first role is the speaker. When it is your turn to be the speaker, you get to share whatever is on your mind, something you're feeling, thinking about, want to explore. There is no pressure to say anything specific. There will be a prompt. Just speak from your heart. You'll talk to one person, the active listener, for your set amount of time. To help the listener reflect accurately, try pausing every so often, maybe a sentence or two, so that they can keep up. And then when you feel fully heard, you can say, I am fully heard, and we'll move on. Then the listener, for our active listener. Next, if you are the active listener, your job is to listen closely to what the speakers and then reflect back what you heard in your own words. For example, if the speaker says, I'm feeling overwhelmed with work, you might say, it sounds like you're feeling really swamped with your job right now. You don't add your own thoughts, you don't give advice, you don't judge, just reflect what you heard them say. This helps the speaker feel understood. And if they feel something was missed, they can repeat it and we can try again. Then our silent listeners. Those are our attentive observers and active witnesses. So the rest of us, when we're not speaking, we're actively listening, are silent listeners. In this role, you stay silent and just listen to the speaker and the active listener. You don't interrupt or jump in. It's all about giving the speaker and listener space to connect, and we're going to hold that space for them. Your presence absolutely matters. It creates that supportive atmosphere. And every room will have a facilitator. The facilitator is here to help everyone through this process. They are also an equal participant in the circle, just like everyone else. And the facilitator has 4 parts to their job. One is to keep time and give clues, like often I'll be, have a little alarm on the phone. So you'll see a little pop-up like this as the alarm is going off to signal yourself to wrap up and know your turn is winding down. Each facilitator will have their version of that. If needed, the facilitator will remind people of the roles. Like if you're the active listener and starts giving advice instead of reflecting, they may say something like, let's just reflect. This facilitator may remind the speaker to pause every now and again so the listener can reflect accurately. It may sound something like, can we pause for a reflection? And if the speaker isn't feeling heard after reflection, the facilitator can step in to add a little bit of clarity. Basically, they are there to keep things flowing smoothly so that we can all focus on listening, connecting, and understanding. So why do we do this? The purpose of an empathy circle is to increase mutual understanding, connection, and trust between all of us. It is a chance to participate, really hearing each other, which builds empathy and strengthens our relationships. The benefits are amazing. You've heard about a bunch of them already today. It is a great way to learn and deepen your listening skills, grow your own empathy, and nurture a more compassionate way of being both here and every day in life. So before we start, any questions? Okay, Edwin, do we have the rooms ready?
We do have the rooms, and I put into the chat, if you don't want to be in a recorded room, to put NR for not record after your name. So I'll be in room 1 with the trainer, with some of the speakers and some others. And then if you're this is a good point. At this point, some people drop out. So if you're going to drop out, this is the time to drop out. But I hope you'll stay so we have enough people in every room. And so it's just a little transition period here. Let me double check. Okay, I think we're ready. There might be a little bit of moving people around once we get started. So. And everyone who has ECF after their name, they're the ones that would be facilitating the circle. And we're going to have 1 hour. So I have here Pacific time, 10:30. We're going to go to 11:30. So it's a 1 hour empathy circle. And what is our topic? Karen, do we have, I guess it's whatever came up for you around the presentation so far, whatever is on your mind about that, or just anything, could be anything that's on your mind as well. And we'll be doing 3-minute turns, and then we'll bring you all back into the main room in 1 hour. So I think we're all set, unless any of the other co-hosts have any comments. We're all set? Okay, Kara, we're all set. Great. Okay, then let's go into those rooms. See you in the rooms. Hopefully everybody's being moved. And
looks like they're all going in.
Yeah, so okay,
this is
bye.
amazing.
Kara.
Bye, guys. I'll
Thanks
see you
so
next
much.
week.
Okay, this is the recorded room. Oh, you were in NR. Sorry about that. You added that after the fact. So breakout. I gotta remake this.
It's all good. It's all
You're
good.
okay? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, we have one room that's recorded. So okay, well,
I just have to be more circumspect now.
right. Brenda, do you want to facilitate since you're a facilitator?
I'd rather not.
Okay.
At this time, I haven't joined in a while. I
Okay.
just really kind of like in a listening mode and contributing, not so much. Maybe
Right.
next time.
Rosa, would you? Because I'm going to kind of
Sure.
move people around here. So
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to facilitate.
I feel like I may have been during the pandemic in circles. Brenda, did you participate at all during the pandemic?
During the pandemic,
Yeah.
somewhat.
Yeah, I recognize your name.
Great. Well, let's start. And as the facilitator of an empathy circle, my role is to be the first listener, that I can model listening. And so that means I need to invite one of you to be the first speaker. So who would like to be the first speaker? And remember, you can talk about whatever you'd like. And we are recording, so yeah, so just be aware of that. And I am also grabbing my phone here so that I can time us. Yeah. So Brenda, Deirdre, would you be willing to be the first speaker?
Sure. I feel rusty, but I'm happy to be back in this context and in this company. It's nice to see you again, Edwin. So my name's pronounced Deirdre, and I am on the West Coast And I have recently joined an organization that I tracked since 1996. And I have sort of jumped into a leadership role. And I'm thinking deeply about how a peace organization embodies peaceful practices as it gets its good work done. And I have been hoping that the empathy circle concept would be one of the tools that the board and membership can embrace to continue to do this good work of keeping doors open and minds open through hospitality around the world.
Great. Can I invite you to pause for a moment so I
Yeah,
can
that's a
read
lot.
what you've said? Yeah, so you've just joined an organization that you've been tracking for a while, since 1996, and it's a peace organization, and you are in a leadership role, and you are really curious about what practices, possibly empathy circles, you can bring in so that this peace building organization also gets to practice peaceful relationships internally. Is that close?
It is. Thank you.
Yeah.
I also feel that when I first became involved in empathy circles, we were in the first Trump administration. And so we were really trying to connect with folks who may not have aligned with our political beliefs, but were humans on the same planet with us. And we were trying to build those bridges. And I remembered what the Occupy movement brought forth and what it meant with Edwin's work to try and stitch folks together just by hosting the tent. And I'd love to see us combine this work with indivisible. So show up but connect.
Yeah, so you've mentioned a couple of different political organizations. You've mentioned Occupy and how you felt that there was some good connection there. And then you'd like to see it connect somehow with the indivisible work. And you also mentioned that during the first Trump administration, you all were working on bringing people with different political views to the table so that people could gain deeper understanding of one another. Is that close?
Yes, that's it. How are we doing for time?
We've got another minute and a half if you'd like.
All right. So I'm on my way to Dijon, France for the triennial conference of Servas International. That's Esperanto, the Servas. And I'm thinking about ways that I might have sort of unconference moments where I invite people in person to an empathy circle to just reflect on what it means to be representing, 160 countries or however many will actually be able to get into France, which is not as restrictive as the US right now, which is nice.
Yeah, so you're on your way to this trip where it's a conference of Esperanto.
Not exactly.
Not exactly. Okay. Service International is connected with Esperanto in some
The
way.
word servas. Thank you for giving me a moment to clarify. The word servas is the name of an international organization that was founded in 1949 to build peace through hospitality.
Building peace through hospitality. And so there's going to be people from a lot of different countries there in France. And you are looking forward to exploring potential opportunities to actually engage people in empathy circle practice in person.
Yes.
Mm,
Thank you
yeah.
for listening.
Yay. Okay. Do you feel complete for now?
I do feel completely heard. Thank you for the clarification opportunity as well.
Sure. So, since I was listening, this means that I get to now go into the role of speaking. So, I'm going to invite someone, not Deirdre, since she was just speaking, but I'm going to invite someone else to be my listener Deirdre's going to shift into the active witness role, or sorry, silent witness role, silent listener. And Brenda, would you be willing to be my active listener?
Yes.
Great. Okay, I have no idea what I'm going to say, but I'm going to start my timer. And just take a big breath here. Noticing a little bit of nervousness right now. And what else? Yeah, just real delight to be here, part of an empathy circle again. So I'll pause there.
Okay. So what I heard you say is that you took a deep breath. You feel like that relaxes you, taking a deep breath, and that you feel somewhat nervous, but it's all balancing out, and you're happy to be here.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, it's funny. I will speak at the drop of a hat for a cause that I really care for, but the truth is I'm a little shy and I have a little bit of social anxiety and meeting people for the first time and all that. It's just like this little fluttering around the edges. So I'm going to take a second deep, big breath. Okay.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that there are times when you have social anxiety. However, if it's a topic that you're passionate about or a topic that you feel really resonates with you, you tend to not have so much anxiety, and you tend to just be able to express yourself a little better without having any type of anxiety. I think is what I heard.
Yeah, thank you. That's close. I think I still have anxiety, but I just push myself right through it. It's like, oh, this is important. I'm not going to pay attention to that anxiety. But then what happens is that afterwards, when I'm relaxing, then I start to feel it, right? Then it's like, oh. So yeah.
Okay. So I'm hearing you say that you normally push through anxiety, even though in the back of your mind you know that it's still there and it tends to surface afterwards. It's still there. It never really leaves. However, you're able to push through it at times and be aware that it may still be there somewhere in the
Yeah.
background.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It feels really good to hear that back. Yeah, so I really care about empathy circles. So when Edwin asked me if I would present something at his uh, Empathy Circle Summit, I didn't think twice about it. I was like, of course. So here I am meeting wonderful new people who are also Empathy Circle practitioners. And yeah, just really, really happy to be here.
Okay. So I heard you say that you're happy to be here. And when Edwin suggested that you participate in the Empathy Summit, you did not hesitate to accept the offer, and you feel grateful that you're able to participate. And one of the things I think that you are looking forward to and have enjoyed is meeting new people and seeing new faces. And
Yeah.
all.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I think the last thing that I'll say is that I really find Katrine's work to be a delight, and I met her thanks to Edwin. I'm doing a fellowship in Germany right now, and he said, "Oh, there's this person in Germany who's a professor, and she is really into empathy circles." And so she and I had a lovely Zoom call about 2, 3 weeks ago. And yeah, I'm just really delighted to meet her and to meet each of you here. And Brenda, I'm really looking forward to your turn when I get to learn a little bit more about you because you'll be the next speaker because you've been the listener.
Okay. So because I've been the listener, I'll be the next speaker. You're excited to hear me speak. And you were fortunate enough to meet, uh, I didn't catch the name, Miss Z in Germany. And you're excited to be one of her cohorts and to get to hear her speak and to get to know her a little bit better also, I think is what I
Thank
heard.
you. Thank you so much. I feel fully heard. And that's it for my turn.
All right. So, Edwin, will you be my listener?
Listening.
Okay. So, I have not participated in a while, but I have been utilizing the empathy practice and I love it.
Yeah, you haven't been here for a while, but you've been using the empathy circle and you're really supporter love it as a practice.
Yeah, so just a little bit about me. I am a workplace, family, and divorce mediator, and I substitute teach in schools because I love working with children, but I'm passionate about mediation. And what I can say is that I love empathy. Empathy, coming into this process, it changed my practice, my mediation practice. Has changed my life and my family because I'm able to listen without judgment. I didn't realize how judgmental I was until, the empathy circles, even though I've taken some spiritual warrior classes and things like that. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, so you really appreciate the empathy circle and that you learned more about non-judgmental listening, and you're a mediator and also a teacher as well.
Yeah. And so, one of the things that I can say as a mediation trainer, one of the hardest things for people to do, no matter what your race, ethnicity, culture, no matter how you identify, one of the toughest things to do is to evaluate yourself.
And you find that no matter who you are, it's the hardest thing is to really understand yourself.
Yes. And it doesn't matter your race or ethnicity or anything like that. Self evaluation is difficult.
Yeah, it doesn't matter race, religion, whatever the category. It's like self-evaluation. It's just the difficult to
Yeah.
do.
And the climate that we're in right now, what would it look like if we just had a place and a space where there was no judgment? What would that look like?
And looking at it sounds like our cultural situation, political, if we just had a non-judgmental space, what would that be like? Just sort of setting the question.
Yes, because things are not always what they appear. I recently met a young lady who her family has, I guess you want to say, put her out to pasture. They no longer want to have anything to do with her because of her political affiliation, and she's so young. It's just so sad how we judge each other.
There's somebody that you know that was put out to pasture, meaning that maybe the family or someone, whoever, didn't, because of her political beliefs, didn't want to relate to her, and you just find that sad.
Yeah. So because of her political beliefs, her family no longer wants to have
Mm.
anything to do with her. And she's really young. She's like the youngest one in the family. So she's not invited to events anymore. She's not invited to family functions. And it's difficult.
Yeah, it's really difficult for her because she's the youngest one in the family, and she's just not invited to any family events, functions.
Yeah, I'll leave it there. I feel heard.
Okay. Um, Deidre,
Yes.
Um, yeah, it's great to see you and Brenda again. Haven't seen either of you for a while, so it's a real delight to reconnect with you both.
I'm I hear that you're happy to see us, both Brenda and myself, because it's been a while.
Yeah, we had a lot. Brenda was really involved with our work here before, so I hope she'll be a speaker at some point in the future. So we have August and November summit, so I hope I'll send you some info to speak. Would love to have you speak, especially around empathy and conflict mediation.
So I'm hearing that you're especially delighted that Brenda's participating today, and you'd like to invite her in, perhaps as a speaker, given her background and your respect for her work, as I heard that.
Yeah, and exactly. And also, I was just really taken with the speakers today. There's just a depth of insight and warmth and care and kind of humanity that kind of warms my heart. And it's not just warms my heart, but it's also the insight somehow kind of being insightful and, having this clarity kind of gives me hope, that we can solve these problems. We can build this empathy movement, with this mindset and skills.
Well, you're so pleased at the way today is coming together with the speakers that you've heard, but also the depth and clarity of their thinking, and it does give you hope for what this process might allow for going forward.
Yeah, and as Jana mentioned, this year as we've been focusing on the empathy circle, and next we want to focus on building the empathy movement. So try to bring all those different tribes that Rosa was talking about, be it NBC, focusing, human-centered design, etc. Bring them together around this topic, a shared value that we all have of empathy, and really move that forward.
I hear that you're recognizing that there are a lot of contributory streams, nonviolent communication, et cetera, and that we could all come together for moving the empathy movement forward.
Yeah. And I do feel that too. I think Rosa mentioned that all this talk, all these books against empathy, they sort of promote the topic. It kind of brings it into the culture. It's like kind of like Trump, like no, publicity is bad publicity at one level because it kind of raises the topic. And yeah.
So I'm hearing that you're actually a little grateful for the anti-empathy publications because they are lifting up the concept, and you likened it to the current president and the concept of there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, and the only thing is, I've reached out to all those authors, to have a dialogue, and they say, "Oh, we don't want to talk." So that's the one problem is that a lot of them just don't want to have a dialogue. So yeah, and I'm just not sure how to address that.
I hear that you were looking at the publications as an opportunity to create dialogue, but the authors have been resistant, and that's maybe a moment of pause.
Yeah, one thing is to be more assertive. I think you were mentioning the empathy tent, but is that taking the empathy tent out can take it out to the Republican convention, the Democratic convention can take it out to the street, can take it out to CPAC, which is a big conservative, conference, or even set it up in front. So there could be more of a extroverted, assertive, to be out there. So that's kind of one strategy, but it's very time consuming. We need a lot of people to support that.
You're thinking about directions forward for the empathy movement, and you heard me bring up the empathy tent and thinking about how we might be present in both Democratic and Republican circles and be visible, but it's also labor intensive and it requires a lot of volunteer energy to make that happen.
Yeah, it was maybe, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago. There was a conference in Los Angeles, Politicon, and a bunch of us went there. We had the empathy tent, and we really connected with a lot of these media people. Had, I can't remember, this African American that's on the News Hour. I don't know what his name. I can't. But I ran into him, and he held up a sign. I support a culture of empathy. So it was like a lot of people sort of at that caliber, of national media that we, that it's, we kind of started connecting with them, and I can just see, connecting to be more part of the national debate, which we're not really part of the national debate, it seems to me.
So a strategy that you had back in Los Angeles for Politicon actually might have helped you get into a national debate that we've felt like we're excluded from at the moment.
Yeah, I feel very heard. Thank you.
All right.
So you're the speaker again. You get to choose your listener.
All right. May I invite you, Brenda, to be my listener?
Yes.
All right. I am I'm feeling really grateful right now because a lot of my participation in various communities was started during the pandemic out of a sense of desperation.
Okay, so I think what I heard you say is that you're very grateful for the space that you're in right now. And regarding empathy, a lot of the processes and procedures started during the pandemic era.
Yes, yes. And and on the one hand, we are out in the community again, we're walking freely, we're engaging with folks, but a sort of veil is descending once again in the kinds of ways that we feel that we can connect.
So what I heard you say is that the veil is descending again in a way that we can connect, and that we're somewhat free out walking around. Unlike during the pandemic, we weren't able to walk around, and that you're out in the community and you have a sense of peace about that.
Mhm. But I think that this hybrid experience of planning online and then using the energy to get out in person and connect is the key.
I think what I heard you say, it is key to get out in the community, even though the hybrid approach is doing the planning internally inside and then taking that on the outside has been rewarding for you based on your smile.
and and also this sense of recognition of coming back into this space and saying, ah, yes, those are like-minded folks, but also people who are in unique positions to stretch my way of thinking about things. And again, back to gratitude.
I think what I heard you say that right now you're in a space of learning, even though you may or may not have some of the same beliefs as the people that are in the circle with you. However, you welcome an opportunity to learn and meet new people and to grow and to even if it's people that you don't agree with, you're happy to be in the same space with people. Is what I
Yes,
heard.
I do. I feel heard in that.
Okay. All right. So Rosa, will you be my listener?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So I like to taking the deep breath. I actually love that. I love box breathing. So I resonate with that.
Yeah, you like box breathing, and so you resonate with taking a big breath.
Yes, it's ironic that I was on a mediation call and we were on the mediation call for maybe for 5 minutes and someone mentioned, "Hey, did you know ABC passed away?" 50 people on the call and it was news to four people, so they just like couldn't function after hearing that. And so the only thing I could think of, y'all, let's breathe. Let's breathe
Mhm.
through this because it was tragic for somebody that didn't know somebody you love and care about passed away. I'll leave it there.
Yeah. 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 So you were on a call recently where some news was shared that maybe some people had heard about it, but some other people hadn't. And it was really intense news about a very dearly beloved person in this community having passed. And you realize that this was a moment where it could be really helpful to just invite people to pause and breathe as a way of connecting more deeply.
Exactly. And the other thing I can say is that sometimes when you introduce something, there's somebody else that know how to introduce something new. So there was another person on the call said, "Hey, let's try this diaphragmic breathing," which was even better than the box breathing.
Ah, okay. So there's different ways to do practices. And somebody else also had a breathing practice that was different, but had other aspects, and you enjoyed having the opportunity to learn that.
Yeah, so we were able to go on with the call and do everything we need. But Evelyn spoke to something that I'm really passionate about, and I just wanted to say, how do we deal with difficult people in difficult situations when we love them?
Mm, mm, mm. So how do we deal with difficult people in difficult situations when we really care about them? And yeah, would you like to say more about that?
What I can say is during difficult times and dealing with difficult people, it is difficult for them to hear what you're saying. You're saying it, but they can't hear you because they're in a different space.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So people may be in a very different space, which makes it hard for them to hear. And this is part of what it means to be in a difficult time right now. Yeah.
Yes. And to my point with empathy listening circles, when it's something that impacts you or it's something that's personal, it's hard for you to hear.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. If it's something that impacts you personally, then even when you're in an empathy circle, it can be really hard to to hear for sure.
Yeah, and one example is a parent at a nursing facility. You know, I remember a couple of years ago, I was on an empathy circle, and we started talking about parents in nursing homes. That resonated with me. So it was difficult for me to hear some of the things that they were saying because it resonated with me.
Sure. So you had a personal experience of having a parent in a nursing home. And so when somebody else started speaking about that, it was hard to hear because there was a lot of resonance and overlap with your own experience.
Yeah, so empathy is very wonderful in helping you get there, but you have to also be aware that during the empathy circle, if it's something that really impacts you, it's difficult for you to hear.
Yeah. 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 So I guess what I'm hearing you say is something like that we each have to be aware that there are topics and circumstances which can make it harder for us to hear, even if we know the practice and love the practice, still with certain topics, when they impact us personally, it's really a stretch.
I feel heard.
So, Edwin, would you be willing to listen to me?
Listening.
Hmm. Let's see. Hmm. Yeah, I'm still sighing.
Still sighing.
Sighing, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Ah, yeah, my mind's drawing a blank so I'm just gonna be here. I'm just gonna breathe and not feel like I have to say something, but just kind of take in the attention of you as my listener.
yeah, nothing's coming up to share, so you're going to just sit and take the time in silence and appreciate our attention,
Yeah,
presence.
for at least a little bit. I mean, something might come. Oh, I know.
Mm.
Here's something really, really, really big and juicy, which I'm just gonna touch on here.
So something did suddenly pop into your mind and it's big and juicy and you just kind of want to touch on it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So there's a woman named Vanessa Andreotti who wrote a book called Hospicing Modernity. And she is trained, is the term for it, a particular AI chatbot to have uh, a very relational mindset.
So there's this author of a book, uh,
Yeah.
Midwifing Modern, what?
Hospicing
A
Modernity.
Hospicing Modernity, and it's about an AI chatbot that's been trained for.
Well, yeah, the book isn't about an AI chatbot, but the book is about how we need to shift our way of thinking to a more relational way of thinking, a more indigenous way of thinking, but she's trained this chatbot with this book, and so I mean, I guess I'm just kind of explaining why and how I ended up getting into conversations with this chatbot because it's a chatbot that she's trained, right?
Mm.
And so I was very intrigued because of who it is, because of her and how much respect I have for her thinking in this book and all that. And the thing I want to say is that at least this chatbot, I don't know about other chatbots because I'm not somebody who's going around doing a lot of AI experiments or whatever, but this chatbot is incredibly good at listening and reflecting back.
So there's this author that is it the she was involved in this creating this chatbot that it does empathic listening. It's just amazing how
Yeah,
good it is. It's
yeah,
just
yeah,
amazing to you that it.
yeah. Yeah. And what it makes me feel is even more strongly that it's important for humans to learn to do this. Like, I don't want to just say, oh, next time we're lonely, just go, contact with the chat bot and have the chat bot reflect back and help you. And I mean, it's like, I'm not trying to diss the chat bot at all. I'm just trying to say that it's made me feel even more strongly about the importance of humans learning to do this.
So seeing how good this chatbot is at empathic listening is it makes you even more strongly to see the importance of human beings that learn this process or do this. And you're not dissing the chatbot, just this it
Yeah.
just shows you the importance of this.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. One thing is that when it's not used in careful hands, like there can be chatbots there's an epidemic of lonely people there, and there can be chatbots that people start relying on the chatbots and then share a lot of confidential information. And then if that ends up in the wrong hands, that can, be really harmful for the people involved. So that's just one of the many concerns about how good chatbots are at reflecting back and making you feel heard and understood and loved and seen like never before in your life.
So you're just having some concern about these chat bots that people are there's all these lonely people, they're going to share their deepest, darkest secrets, and who knows where that's going to end up. So it's a real concern.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just going to leave it there. I think there's also a lot of creative potential. Like I think a lot of people who are, I don't know why that thing just did that, but a lot of people who are artists and writers, it's like I've found myself like able to take some writing that I'm working on and get some really useful feedback. And so, I mean, I think chatbots can be helpful, and it's a big issue, and I just wanted to raise it. Thank you.
Yeah, they could be helpful, the AI chatbots, and it's a big issue that you want to just raise in the circle. Okay,
Thank you.
great. And Brenda, to you.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot with AI, kind of researching, kind of tracking all the new, things that are coming out about it. It's pretty amazing what it can do.
What I heard you say is that you've been working with AI and you've been tracking some of the trends, and it's amazing to you the things that AI can do.
Uh, Rosa and I did a chapter for a book on empathy circles for museums, and I asked the AI to kind of give an outline or draft. And actually, the introduction we sort of used it, modified in the chapter, and the editor said, "Oh, that's a really good introduction." So it's yeah, I'm planning on using it for my empathy definition work.
I heard you say that you and Rosa collaborated on a book in that you use the AI to come up with the title and just an outline of the book, and you are actually utilizing and using.
Yeah, I've even had a whole series of questions. How do we build an empathy movement? And I went through all the different all the different AIs and asked them that question and just put together a whole list. So they kind of lay out a whole structure and format, and yeah, and it has a lot of ideas. It just kind of gives a lot of jumping off places, for my mind. So I find it very helpful.
I think what I heard you say is that you find AI helpful and that you put information into Bard, Gemini, Chat GPT. You put information to those different AI portals, and each one of them give you an outline on how to be successful in empathy being a global model,
Hmm.
and that you plan to use some of those tips and techniques that you got from AI.
Yeah, and we've been doing a meeting with Jody Jensen. We meet every Tuesday to discuss the definitions of empathy, for that project. And we've probably done 6 or 7 meetings. I put all those into an AI, and it synthesizes it, and it actually creates a TV podcast. An audio podcast of a man and a woman discussing all the work, and it's really, it's just like, and it's really good. Yeah. So
Okay, I heard you say that you were working with Jody Jensen and you guys put in the definitions regarding empathy and empathy circles into the AI, and it created a automated podcast with a male and a female actually giving scenarios and real
mhm.
life things that can make the podcast successful regarding empathy.
Yeah, and I run everything through. Now, this is actually running through Zoom AI. So at the end, there'll be a report on this. And then I drop it into Otter AI, which will go through and transcribe everything. And then it'll also create an AI summary. So yeah, it's gonna really it's really taking off.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you're utilizing AI on several levels, especially AI note taking and transcription and summarizing. So this particular Zoom that we're on, you're going to utilize it, and it will outline and sum up everything that we've said, put it in condensed notes, and make it easy to assemble.
And then you can also take characters and, public figures and kind of animate them too, create little videos. The AI will create videos. So I just been imagining, create an empathy circle with Trump and, a couple other people, and they're having an empathy circle, and or you can put into Trump's mouth, say, "Oh, empathy circle is the greatest thing. They're the best," or something. It's like, yeah. There's a lot of creativity, possibility, I think, with AI.
Okay, so what I heard you say is that you've been visualizing a lot of out of the box creative things that you can do, and one of them would be, excuse me, with the president that is in office right now, to be able to create things coming out of his mouth in
Hmm.
real time that he may not be saying and thinking, and we know he don't feel. So I'm sorry, I apologize, but I couldn't. So that's interesting
Yeah,
that you are doing a lot with AI, and the videos are easily done and
yeah.
assembled.
Yeah, I'm really trying to see how we can apply it to the work that we're doing. So yeah, just looking for the opportunities and sort of experimenting with it. And I could imagine an AI character. It'd be interesting to have an AI character as one of the participants in an empathy circle like this with us. What would
Okay.
the effect be? So it's like just a lot of experimentation
So you're
possibilities.
visual. I'm hearing you say you're visualizing a lot of things, and one of those things would be, what would it look like for an AI to participate in an actual empathy listening circles with the group, and
I
what that
feel.
might, what we might learn or might not learn, and you think that that's one of the things that in the future you would like to see happen for empathy listening circles, is
Yeah,
what
I
I'm
feel
hearing you say.
very heard. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
excited about the possibilities. Yeah, and I feel heard.
Yeah. Okay. So what I can say is, oh, sorry, Deidre, will you be my listener?
Absolutely.
Okay. So AI is interesting, and I always like to say, and I've been saying it for a couple of years now, AI will be our new bosses.
You have been characterizing AI as our future bosses. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes, and it's interesting. I really like all those things that Edwin said. That's really interesting, because that is the wave of the future technology, and we can't go backwards.
And AI is the wave of the future. You're excited about how Edwin has been thinking about it could be used, but you see it's the wave of the future.
Yes, and I remember maybe like 6 years or 7 years ago, where AI was used to mediate a case in Hawaii, and it settled successfully. So mediators are thinking, will AI take our jobs?
Also, there's a precedent in Hawaii of using AI as the mediator, and it was successfully resolved, and that gave everyone paused in the mediator community. It's like, what does this mean?
Yes, my personal belief is that I don't think that AI will be able to fully take over mediation and the redress practice.
But you're of the opinion that AI does not have the capacity to take over completely the mediation and redress.
Yes. So regarding like a case study where you're in a mediation and you're meeting with the attorney and the attorney says, "Hey, if my client does this, I need you to caucus right away." AI can't do that.
There's still something essential of the relationship between the mediator and the attorney in achieving the goals that's something you don't see AI being able to accomplish.
Yes, because if you're in a room with the participant, if you're in the room with the participant and they start to display like stressful body movements, you read their body language is negative and you know that that person needs a break, AI won't be able to determine that they need a break. But visualizing, seeing that this person is about to um, be a little irate or get a little violent, AI wouldn't be able to detect that. In person, you can.
Uh, so, what I'm hearing you say is that AI doesn't have the capacity to interpret body language in the way that mediators in the room have the ability to do. So I think I'm hearing there's some comfort there.
Yes, yes, yes. But for the most part, a lot of mediators and people, period, are using AI. And Edwin, I like the fact that you're taking it to a whole nother level with a podcast. I think that's awesome.
So you're excited to hear that Edwin is utilizing these resources to make the podcast, but you do see that everybody is turning things over to AI.
Yes, and there's good and bad because look at all of these people who are out of their jobs because of AI. You know, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of federal workers are out of their jobs because of AI.
So you're tying the loss of federal jobs to AI, is what I hear, and that it's really sad that so many people are being replaced by this new
Yes.
technology.
And it is devastating on more than one level because you're going to always need people. You know, even with, I have friends who drive trucks, even seeing the 18 wheelers on the road with no driver. I mean, at some point, I mean, it's just, I mean, a deer running across the street at midnight and you're driving an 18 wheeler, can, how's that managed? You know, I just think that AI is, it's good and it's bad.
You're definitely reflecting on the pros and cons of this new technology and all of the ways that it's been incorporated into our lives, even in the form of a driverless 18-wheeler. And what would it be like to try and cross a road in the night, reliant on technology to keep you safe? It's good and it's bad.
Yes, and I don't want to deny that I haven't used it because I do use it in my business and my practice, and it's very helpful, even with dealing with some clients, you know, but letting the clients know in advance what's going on, you know, just letting them know. So it has its advantages for business owners.
So there are definitely opportunities to use this in your work, and you always disclose with your clients, but as a business owner, it has made a lot of the processes easier.
Yes, as far as marketing and technology people, you sometimes can just put it there and you won't need a marketing coordinator. It's interesting. And I'll leave it there.
Okay, you brought up another example of somebody whose work could be done with the AI, with the marketing coordinator, but in the end, you'll just leave it there.
I feel heard.
All right, thank you. Uh, Rosa, would you be my listener?
Yes, and I'm realizing I lost track of when did we start?
So
We
it's eleven
started at
seventeen.
yeah, we have 13 minutes.
Okay. Okay, great.
Mm,
Yes, I'm happy to be your listener.
thank you. So I happen to serve on some national boards, and I'm about to celebrate my 30th anniversary in the museum field.
Wonderful. Congratulations. You have about to celebrate your 30th anniversary in the museum field.
And in my roles on the boards, an editorial board and with museum volunteers nationally and with my volunteer work in community building, I was very intrigued to hear about the book project.
Hmm. And you also work in a role that involves volunteers and community building, also around museums, it sounds like. And so you were very intrigued about the book that the chapter that Edwin and I were writing for a book on museums.
Exactly. And I will be in Los Angeles in May, early May, for the American Alliance of Museums conference. And one of the sessions that I was very intrigued by was the Sensory Museum that's based in the UK and the idea of radical inclusivity and accessibility.
Oh, so there's a sensory museum in the UK that does a lot of radical inclusivity, and you're interested in going to their session at this conference that you're attending, an upcoming conference in LA.
Yes. And I try in all of my conference attendance to incorporate my other practices of community building, and so I always will try to couch surf or use my connections with Servas International to find a host so that I can be grounded in the community when I'm present for a conference.
Ah, so you have this lovely personal practice of wanting to, whenever you go to a conference, to become more grounded in the local community. And one of the ways you do this is by either couch surfing or seeing if through this service organization that you're a part of, you can find some local people to stay with so that you can connect with the community, not just go to a conference.
Exactly. And at the same time, reflecting on our conversation about AI, the Science Museum that I work for is hosting a summer exhibition on helping people better understand the nuances of AI. And I'm thinking about a potential collaboration.
Yeah, so you have a science museum where you were employed that is going to be doing a whole exhibit helping people understand the nuances of AI.
And I'm very intrigued by the podcast possibility, and I think I'll explore that further.
Mhm. So you're interested in following up this podcast that Edwin's working on and exploring that.
But ultimately, I find that my sort of life practice is weaving together a lot of disparate interests and trying to find a narrative that will hold it all. And I think it comes down to connection.
Yeah, so you notice that one of your gifts or life practices is being a weaver of many different things that interest you and finding a way to create narratives that hold them all together, and you're seeing one of the connecting threads being connection.
And since this is Global Volunteer Month, I want to just thank each of you for participating in this event, because I feel like this is, in fact, where we have agency, is how we choose to spend our time. And I'm just grateful for that.
You're letting us know that it's Global Volunteer Month. I had no idea. And so you're appreciating that each of us are choosing to volunteer to spend our time and show up here, because you're seeing where we choose to spend our time is a significant way that we each have agency.
And I'll plant one seed to be complete, and that is 2026 is designated by the United Nations as the International Year of Volunteers in Sustainable Development. And if we think about all of the sustainable development goals, number 3 is good health and well-being. And that is where I think the empathy circles land squarely. And
Yeah, you're seeing good health and well-being, which is number 3 in the UN sustainability goals, as a place where empathy circles can really land. And you're reminding us that 2026 is the UN, I believe, Year of the Volunteers in Sustainable Development.
yes, I feel heard. Thank you very much.
Great. We have time for one more.
Yeah, and then we have 6 minutes.
Okay. Shall I take a turn, or should we do some kind of little closing ritual, or
We
how
can do
should
some
we?
closing. That would be nice.
Let's do a closing ritual. So I'll take like a short turn, a couple minutes in closing, and then just pass it around, and we can each say some closing words. Does that sound good?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
This has been a very thought-provoking, rich conversation for me, and I am really, really glad I have chosen to spend my time here. I am very much a long-term volunteer. I love the song "We Are the Volunteers of America," um, and yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of longer conversations I would like to have with each one of you. It's been a while since we've caught up, Edwin, and I know that you used AI a little bit when we were working on that chapter, but and that was fine with me, but I was not yet deep into my AI exploration. So now that I am, I'd love to have another conversation with you about it. Deirdre, it's been a real pleasure. I would love to have all kinds of conversations with you. And Brenda, deep honor to meet you. Very happy to learn about your mediation work and would love to get to know you better.
I think that your fan just went on, Rosa, getting him something.
Yeah, there's a lot of background noise all of a sudden.
Oh, that did it. Yeah, that's good. Well, let me just mute you. No, it's coming from somewhere else. It's from Brenda. See. So if you want to, I just was just checking your, if you want to unmute Brenda and speak.
Oh, okay. Oh, so what I want to say is that it was a pleasure to meet each of you. And one of the things I really, really love about the empathy listening circles is learning something new. And what I can say is that each time I come, I learn something new. And the other thing I can say is that it's not a coincidence, the room that you're in. So we're all in this room together because we were supposed to be. So I am grateful to get to feel your energy and to learn something about each of you. I'm a high energy person, if you can kind of tell, and I see the glass is half full, not half empty. And everybody's at a different level, so you meet them where they are, but you don't let anybody dim your light, is what I believe. And I see each of your lights shining really bright, and I'll leave it there.
Okay, I'll just jump in. I put in the link to the AI. There's a lot of questions there, and then if you follow through to the sub pages, there's all the how AI replied to all those questions. And then also while we were talking, couldn't resist. I ran our photo of what we're doing here into AI, and I said convert it to Ghibli style, which is a certain style of a photo. And this is like super hot. Somehow this Ghibli style, it's like everybody's been doing it. So anyway, it's just just a lot of fun to sort of play around with this stuff. And it's been just the whole summit's been wonderful in this circle too, reconnecting Deirdre and Brenda, with you too, having not seen you. It's been a delight. And of course, seeing you again, Rosa. Look forward to us getting together tomorrow.
Oh, I am full of love and gratitude. You can feel that, but I will also say, be careful what you feed the beast, Edwin. Every time you push somebody's face into AI, it lives forever to be used as needed. So I want
Yeah,
to
that's
be
true.
sure that I caution you on always getting permission before you feed something, somebody else's intellectual property or their image or any of that stuff, because there are maniacs out there. And let me say something more calm, which is what a wonderful time to be in space with you. I had no idea what to expect today, and I am just so delighted. And I really, when Rosa was speaking, I was like, I hope that I have that opportunity. And then when Brenda appeared, I was like, Brenda will not recognize me, but I so recognize being in breakouts with Brenda. So this is just, it's awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Edwin, for holding this space for all of us to connect and reconnect.
Okay, I think great. So I think we're ready to close. Go back to the
And
main
Edwin,
room.
I'd like to say, I think we look much younger than
In those photos.
we look much better. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you can choose any style that you want. It could be Rembrandt style or Monet style, or it's just, yeah, just the possibilities is pretty amazing for the AI. So,
Well, I appreciate everything you said, Deidre, about being aware of what you put out there, because that's a real thing, especially in the times we're in now. So we have 30 seconds. So I enjoyed you all. I'm going back into the room. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes.
you'll have a chance to debrief there as well. So,
Okay.
see you there.
No, almost everybody. I think everybody's here now.
Yeah,
Welcome
they're
back.
all coming back.
Yeah, welcome back, everyone.
Hello.
So, on this part, we would love to hear about your experience in the empathy circles. And so, we're going to invite you to take between 30 seconds and a minute or so to share with us all about your experience in the empathy circle today, if you'd like to. So,
Okay.
I
you
share.
would like to share? Is that Gargi?
This is Quanta Donna.
Quanta. Okay.
Well, it was
Hello, Quanta.
wonderful. It was really wonderful. It was a good experience, to learn how to listen and also to express oneself so that the others are able to listen to you. So it was great. I really, really liked it, and I'm looking forward to being more involved in it.
Fantastic. Pleased to hear that, Quanta. That's what we're all about. That's absolutely right. Listening to each other. All right. Anybody else? Just pop up your little electronic hand, or you can raise your hand. I think I can see everybody.
How do you raise the hand?
Who's asking?
Oh, how do you raise your hand?
Oh, that's Craig. I can go ahead, Craig.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we had a real delightful interchange, and we really hit on, I think, very profound as well as stimulating points. And everyone seemed to be quite sincere and genuine, and it was quite rewarding for all of us.
Very pleased to hear that. Thank you. I did see a hand, and the hand's disappeared now.
You want to just call on people, go down the row? That's kind of fast.
Zainab.
Sure, Zainab. Yeah, Zainab, go ahead.
Yes.
Thank
So,
you.
like I said in this breakout session, this is my first empathy circle, and it was so interesting to me, and more than interesting, fascinating to know that I can slow my brain down to listen to other people speak, because usually my brain is really fast, and I just want to jump in and say, complete sentences or all that. But empathy circle is teaching me to slow my brain down to listen completely to the end when somebody is speaking. Actually, that's my takeaway for today.
That's beautiful, Zainab. Thank you so, yeah. How wonderful. So I'm going to call on Valerie, if that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so I enjoyed the empathy circles. I always do. I have since I joined in January 2022, and I've been coming ever since because I love it. And yeah, I just appreciate everyone always for showing up. It's always a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Valerie. Nice to meet you. Sally.
I'm not sure if you're talking to me. I think there are two Sallys.
I'm talking to you, Sally Lafferle, my
Okay.
friend.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's the empathy, the whole summit has been just amazing to me, and I've really appreciated it. And also just the group that I was with was just very illuminating, I have to say. It just it's and empathy circles are always a way for me to get aware of the world out there and of myself. And I just really appreciate it. And I thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Sally. Yeah, raising our awareness. That's brilliant. Thank you. Gargi. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, yes. This was my first this summit, Empathy Summit, and it was a wonderful experience. And even that breakout session was very interesting. Thanks to Bill and Jonathan, and it was like it was so much of like the listening thing, this thing, empathy listening is a lot of it is incorporated in my work, but then I tend to sometimes jump in, sometimes think something else and stuff like that, to be aware, to be focused on what another person is talking, and listening to it with empathetically is not an easy thing. And thank you so much for this experience. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you.
Oh, we appreciate you, Gargi. Thank you for coming today. Bob.
Thanks, Ruth. Grateful to Edwin for making this world a better place and for inviting people to join together and expand the solidarity among all good-hearted people. And it's such a treat to be here. Thank you.
Oh, I rejoice in that, expanding our solidarity. Thank you so much, Bob. And Brenda, so wonderful to see you.
Yes, greetings. It's great to see everybody again. Bill, Edwin, Donna, Noah, Kara, Jonathan. It's good to see everybody. I haven't participated in a long time, and I talk kind of fast, so I'm slow down. But I've enjoyed the room with Deidre, Rosa, and Edwin. It was really great. One of the things that I really love is always learning something new, not just in the room, but also about myself with each empathy circle. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Yeah, brilliant to always be learning. Jamie, you're up.
Yeah, just like to say thank you very much for making it easy for me to get introduced to empathy circles. I didn't know anything about them really before I attended today, and I've learned a lot. So thank you.
Oh, welcome, Jamie. Thank you. Deirdre? Not sure if Deirdre's here.
I'm sorry.
Josie. Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead, Deirdre.
I didn't mean to make you call my name a bunch of times. I just I'm seeing so many familiar faces and eager to learn more about Katrine's work and the others that have been presenting about their projects. So I'm grateful to be here, and I'm hoping to bring the members of Serve Us International into this context, because I think it would be a really lovely gift for all of us to think more about stitching the world together a little bit closer through hospitality. So thank you.
Well, I celebrate that, stitching the world together with hospitality. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Deirdre. Josie, are you there behind the scenes somewhere? And that's okay. If not, you don't have to hop in. We'll come back to you, Josie. Ingrid.
I love the environment of the summit. It's so inclusive. There are people I've known for a while who come again, who offer a lot of expertise. There are others who are completely new. And then in the circle, we kind of bring it all together and we are with each other. I really appreciated meeting two completely people whom I have never met before and meeting them in this context, and thought it was overall a wonderful experience. Thank you, everybody who co-created it.
Thank you, Ingrid. And that's very precious, isn't it? Being with each other. Thank you. Oh, Katrin.
Yes, thank you very much from my side too. It was a very, very lovely experience for me. It was, I felt it was very mindful and thoughtful. He's talking with each other and very heartful. So I thank you very, very much for letting me joining in.
Wonderful, Katrin, and I hope to join one of your circles one day as well. Thank you. Rosa. I can't hear you, Rosa. I think you're still
Sorry,
muted.
I was on mute. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for organizing this. It's been lovely. It's been lovely to meet new folks and see old friends and new friends. And yeah, just really, really happy to be here. Thank you so much to all of the hosts and moderators and small group facilitators and organizers and attendees, and especially thank you to the people who took the risk of coming here for the first time and checking it out. It really warms my heart when somebody says, oh, this is the first time I'm here. I'm like, yeah. So thank you.
Fantastic. Many words of wisdom there. Thank you so much, Rosa. Let's see. Jana?
Thank you so much for the whole summit. I loved the speakers. I especially loved hearing about conflict in empathy circles and to see how useful that is and all the different topics like Katrin explored and yeah, and all the different convergences. And for the circle, we had a beautiful circle. We had more people than you can see. We had a couple people driving, and Sherry was there and able to share while she was driving, and Raju, I think his name is, he was there too. So thank you to everyone who participated. Thank you so much for sharing yourself and being part of our circles. Thank you.
Thank you, Jana. I like the sounds of the converging. Very interesting. Bill.
I want to express my appreciation. It was a great circle. It was great to meet everybody.
I'm really excited about how excited people are about empathy, because I think it's what we'll need in order to solve our world's problems. I did put in a link you'll see in the chat to the best empathy training, which it's a free online training, occurs on Saturdays. And I made a mistake, as I often say, the empathy circle is not about perfection. So I put somebody's email in there, but it's been corrected. So please don't email Quanta if you have any questions, email me, and I'll put my email in there if you have any questions. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. We're very grateful for all the training that you continually offer. Very grateful. Besides Edwin, is there anybody that has not spoken that would like to speak? I think everybody has spoken, so I'm going
Bob
to.
and Jonathan haven't spoken.
Oh, Jonathan. Sorry, Jonathan. Go ahead.
And
Thank
Bob.
you.
And Bob.
Well, I
Bob.
would just like to express my gratitude for everyone. It's just so enjoyable seeing about 20 lovely faces on the screen here and knowing that everyone enjoyed the experience they had. And I just want to remind you to save your chat. There's a lot of valuable links and a lot of valuable information in it. And I'm going to reinforce what Bill said. Next Saturday, we're starting a whole new facilitator training classes. And the links and the sign up is in the chat. Thank you all.
Incredible. Thank you, Jonathan. You're behind the scenes working away. And thank you for all the training that you offer. And Bob, you've spoken. Have you spoken, Bob? You spoke.
Oh, and Katrin?
And Katrin spoke.
Okay.
Spoke, yes. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you. All right, Edwin.
Okay, so we're coming to the end of our summit today. And in the chat, we posted some next steps. The first one is you can save your chat if you want to save all those links. There's three little buttons there where it says personal meeting. You just click on that and there's the save chat if you want to save that. The next link, number 2, was to find out about to have for empathy for the feedback for the summit. You can click on that and there's a form, and I'm going to share that again at the end of this. And on the number 3 is next month, there's the 7th Global Online Empathy Conference. It was going to be in Santa Cruz and online, but it's now only going to be online, and we're sort of co-hosts with the organization that's putting that on, the Virtual School of Australia. And there'll be an empathy circle held there again, and there'll be all kinds of different presentations. I think it's a whole day, maybe a day and a half conference. So we invite you to attend that. There's a link for how to sign up for that. Our next summit is August 9th. And yeah, there's a link there to that. So August 9th and then November 8th, I think, is the next one on. And they're both more about the empathy circle practice. And then, as we mentioned, we're going to be starting summits on how do we actually build the empathy movement, because I think that's something we really need to be bringing all the different tribes who value empathy together and kind of have a concerted effort to build this movement, and kind of excited about that. And you can see our website, the Empathy Center website, for updates. That's theempathycenter.org. That's our 501c3 nonprofit, and there's links to all of our different projects there. And you can see schedule of other empathy circles. There's empathy circles held all over the world. And if you go to that schedule, there's a Google Doc, and you can see all the different people that are holding empathy circles. And if you want to hold an empathy circle and want to get on that calendar, you just email me and we'll give you permissions to add and edit your events on that. And also to be a speaker, number 8, to be a speaker at a future empathy summit. So we still have space in August and November, and would love to have you present, a 10, 15-minute presentation about your insights and learnings about the empathy circles. And I was just so impressed. I just really, with the depth of the presentations today, just the insights and just the deep experience that all of our presenters had. So it's so exciting to me for these empathy summits. We'll be taking individual clips from each speaker, posting them to social media, and we invite you to share those on your social media, get the word out, and build more support for the empathy movement and the empathy circle practice. And then finally, we're going to ask you, here's the link. And if you click on that link right there for the feedback form, and if you'll actually take a minute just to click on that and then type in your email. So Edwin Rutch at gmail.com. So if you can just fill that feedback form out, that would be a real benefit. And I see that let me just get us into the gallery view. So yeah, we can get a picture of everyone. And so I think that's the end. Anything else? Any of the co-hosts? Anything else to say before we close? Did I leave anything out? Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I was wondering about being a speaker. Do you have to be an experienced person in this program?
Well, you would need to know how to do the empathy circle, have done it, so you have something to reference. So if you've done an empathy circle, and we've had people who have just done empathy circles and then just talked about their experience, and that's fine, but you should have done, a fair amount to be able to speak on the topic. And so it's open to anyone who wants to speak. You can just email me, and I'll put
All
my
right.
email in here. And actually, while we're here, I'll get the Empathy Summit. If we do have a speaker that was in the link there, I think. So that's kind of the how to be a speaker, and you just take that form, fill out the form, and email it to me. So finally, we like to have a nice group photograph where we do applause hands, and we say goodbye to everyone, and be sure to continue filling out that feedback form. So bye, everyone. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.